Now we got Tony Khan. Okay, Tony Khan had he had a very good presser. He was calm. He was collected. He gave answers to questions. He didn't really dodge anything. But I did not watch Ring of Honor. If those are some wonders in the chat, I did not watch Ring of Honor, so I will not comment on the matches. It was 5 hours. I don't really. There's enough pro wrestling in my week where watching 5 hours of Ring of Honor is not something I want to do. But if something is recommended to me, I will go out and watch it. But Tony Khan addressed through AEW, and he says AEW is under constant attack by negative fans. Now, there's a lot of criticism from certain fans about AEW. I am no stranger to giving anybody criticism. WWE, Vince, Paul, Bruce, Tony Khan. I mean, Tony Khan sees my criticism. I know for a fact he sees my criticism. I'm in his threads. I'm fucking commenting on Twitter. He knows what I think. So this past week, there's been more negativity due to the reported meeting between WWE, Warner Brothers, and AEW right now, where AEW is going to land, where Raw is going to land, because WWE met with Warner Brothers this week in New York City at their headquarters about Raw's media rights deal. AEW has their TV deal with Warner Brothers through the end of 2024. So let's start with this. Tony Khan did address Warner Brothers Discovery talking to WWE. He says this: Ring of Honor. We haven't had any recently, as many, but we've had some really good conversations about AEW in recent days. I've had really good talks with Warner Brothers Discovery. We've been with them for several years. It's a really exciting time for AEW. We were the #1 show on cable on Wednesday. What are considered both the key demographics on TV, which is the 18 to 49 and the 25 to 54. So it was a great week for AEW. I think we've been putting out some of the best shows we've ever done. Right now, we're on this incredible run. We performed incredibly well for Warner Brothers Discovery, and we're very, very, very strong in our relationship. I think with the media rights and all things coming up, everyone has to do their due diligence. It's just part of the TV business. I think where we stand in a position for AEW to have a huge growth in 2024. There's a lot of really exciting things happening that I know Warner Brothers is really excited about, that we've talked about. The advance for All In just being a massive success as we're approaching a $5 million gate for a show that is 8.5 months away. I'll stop there. Now, I know Tony Khan was shopping Ring of Honor, Drew. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Shopping Ring of Honor to CW. He turned that down. He didn't want to discuss that with CW. He wanted basically to bundle Ring of Honor and AEW with hopes of getting a streaming deal with Max. We don't know when or if that's happening with the Monday Night Raw talks. But from my point of view, it looks like Tony Khan wants to remain with Warner Brothers Discovery. He wants to remain in good graces with them. But the way that I think, man, at the end of the day, Tony Khan seems like a fucking genuine, good-hearted human being. But loyalty will only get you so far here. And it's about what Warner wants to do and where they see the most money and what they see, as far as a return on their investment. Tony Khan may be out in the dust here, hanging on the loyalty card. And Warner Brothers is like, yeah, we're going to move in a different direction.
Nice guys finished last, unfortunately. Yeah. And Tony is a very nice guy. I give Tony a lot of credit. Tony is doing what a lot of us can only dream of doing. Tony has sunk a ton of his money into AEW and is hoping to better the landscape of professional wrestling. And he is, whether you guys like him or not, is really not his or my concern. And it shouldn't be his or my concern. We should just be thankful that there's an alternative. What I will say to your comments is, and your stats that you threw out there, is who gives a shit about your demo? Get your contract. I know that's part of it. I know people are going to be like, well, I get it. But the demo, like the 18 to 49 demo, was realistically the only thing that AEW was constantly beating WWE on. So they touted it for a very long time, which is smart by them. It's a victory lap that they could take over and over and over again. What I will say to this is that it's passe. It's done. Nobody gives a shit anymore. So, and Jericho is a genius for doing it. But what I will say here is AEW and Warner Brothers Discovery are going to have some sort of relationship going forward. To what extent, I don't know. But I will tell you that I believe that AEW and Max will be the place where you get pay-per-views at a monthly subscription-based price. That's where I think AEW's pay-per-views land, because I believe that once the Peacock deal is up, Warner Brothers Discovery is going to try and buy the WWE tape library and their PLEs, which isn't going to happen, but I think they'll talk to them about it. I think that goes to ESPN Plus. But I do believe that Warner Brothers Discovery and AEW will have some sort of relationship in terms of media rights. I just believe that it'll be on the streaming side of things.
Yeah. I don't really know how to feel about this. Again, this is not really my forte. I'm more of a creative, pro wrestling discussion.
Hit me with your questions.
Hit
me with them.
The part that I'm thinking about here is, if I'm Tony Khan, and I told Drew this away from you guys live here, I told him this in private. And it's not anything big. I told him, bro, what is with Tony Khan's demeanor? You couldn't see him on the scrum, the pre Ring of Honor Final Battle scrum. He had a conference call with the media before the show. I told Drew, why does he sound like, he's so defeated? He sounded so defeated. He sounded so defeated over the phone. And I was listening to the conference call. I had to shut it off after 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what am I listening to here? It's like I can't listen to him just sound so down. And I told Drew, I'm like, does he kind of get a wind of something happening here, and he's just kind of, he's like me. I wear my heart on my sleeve. Is Tony wearing his heart on his sleeve because he knows what's coming in the coming weeks? Is that something that you felt as well?
So basically, I've made a career out of reading people very well in the business world, and I can tell you Tony's demeanor screams to me like he feels like second place, and he feels as if he's not appreciated, and he feels as if somebody's turning their back on them. That's why I believe that Warner Brothers Discovery and WWE have some sort of agreement in place.
That was my next thing. It's like, I'm thinking about the CW and Nick Houseman. He reported last week that there's a feeling of AEW being in danger of losing their TV deal. Now, I mentioned Nick Houseman and House of Wrestling because Nick Houseman was the person that reported that CW made. I guess discussions happened. Tony Khan was talking to CW about bringing Ring of Honor to CW. At what time slot, what night of the week, nobody knows. But Tony did address that in the Ring of Honor media call, and he kind of confirmed that information. Now, I'm thinking if CW brought in NXT, if they had Ring of Honor, theoretically, Drew, if they had Ring of Honor on their network already, and Tony Khan made a deal to bring Ring of Honor to CW, and then they went out and got NXT and got in bed with WWE, Tony Khan would be number 2. He would be the number 2 wrestling promotion on CW because NXT would take precedent over that. Now,
I don't think NXT ends up on CW if Tony had pulled the trigger with Ring of Honor.
Really?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I don't. I think CW wanted to get into the wrestling business and wanted to get something that, like I said, is relatively cheap to produce for a year. 52 weeks a year. It's always, for the most part, it's live. I mean, you could tape wrestling. Obviously, they do that with a lot of their shows. But no, I don't think the WWE NXT ends up on CW if Tony had taken the Ring of Honor deal. And I think, again, Tony played his hands. One was CM Punk. He thought, I'm going to fire this guy. He'll never end up in WWE because I had to, because I needed to show that I'm a leader and stuff like that. Whether or not that was a good decision, I think he played his hand, and now CM Punk's in WWE. I also think Tony trying to keep AEW and Ring of Honor as a package deal, I think he played that one wrong too. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, I do believe that there is too much smoke to this WBD and WWE stuff, and I think you are seeing it with Tony. Tony's demeanor on the media call was one of sorrow.
Yeah.
And then once you got to the post-show scrum, it was somebody who looked like they had a fire lit under them, that they're going to keep fighting. They're going to keep doing. You need to listen to the words that the man spoke and his demeanor and his facial expressions and everything else like that. He talked about Crockett and Gagne and Ted Turner, all people who tried to fight against WWE, when realistically he has stated a million times that AEW and WWE are not, one's a multi-billion-dollar company who's been around for years and years and decades, and then AEW, who's a multi-billion-dollar company who's only been around for 5 years. But now he's talking about fighting them directly. Something doesn't add up, and what it is that WBD and WWE are in bed, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I do feel that Tony knows that. He's not gonna tell you that. He's not gonna tell the media that. He can't say anything. But at the end of the day, it also got me thinking, if WWE ends up on TNT or TBS, and the rumor is, I think Nick Hausman said that AEW would probably move to the Discovery Channel, and we were talking last week, and people were making fun. AEW is going to end up on the Weather Channel or fucking Pop TV, whatever the case may be. But in all seriousness, again, you're looking at Tony Khan being number 2 on a network or with a network like Warner, where he gave so much and was so loyal to them, and now they're kind of pushing him to the side, and he's going to be like the redheaded stepchild here as far as the deal is concerned. If Raw does go over there. Now, additionally, on top of that, we were discussing not even 6 months ago, that AEW was potentially looking at a major TV rights deal. Anywhere between 500 to 800,000 people were rumored, 800 million. And now, with WWE potentially being in bed with Warner, they're not going to get anywhere close to that. Do they get any sort of bump in their TV right? I'm sure they get some sort of bump, but is it going to be enough to where Tony Khan can really run the company the way he has been? And I know he's been solely against cutting people and cutting roster and letting people go. Could we potentially be looking at them getting a minor bump or not a bump at all, maybe getting the same type of deal to move to Discovery, and Tony Khan's going to have to end, at the end of the day, making cuts? Is he going to have to let people go?
No, I don't think that's where we're headed. I think that the CM Punk effect played dividends massively for WWE in more ways than one, which we've discussed, and I think it really hurt AEW. And we've discussed that a ton too. And now what I could see happening is Fox is obviously getting out of the quote unquote WWE business, because literally WWE has basically, I mean, if you look at the network, right? The genesis of the network, it was to get the pay-per-views on there and then produce documentaries and series. They've basically chopped everything up besides the PLEs. They've kept them there in the tape library on Peacock. They've sold the documentaries to A&E. They sold Raw, SmackDown, and NXT to 3 different networks. They're everywhere. They've spread, no pun intended, they've spread their seed almost everywhere that they possibly could. And what has happened now to AEW is they're a rock and a hard place. Could Fox be a bidder for AEW? Possibly. Do they put them on network television? I don't think so. I think Fox could be getting so far out of wrestling that they go in a different direction, and maybe they're the new home of the NBA. And maybe that's why Warner Brothers Discovery is making a play, and a heavy one, for WWE, because they're going to lose the NBA. Maybe. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that AEW is either going to have to take a deal that maybe they don't want with Warner and they're on Discovery. Maybe they can't go there either because WWE has a clause in their contract. Maybe they waive it. I don't know. There's a lot of things, but no, I don't think AEW is going to end up on like Destination America and they got to cut costs and everything else. I just don't see that. I don't.
Is there a potential where Tony, a lot of people are claiming that AEW is dead if they leave Warner and they don't have any TV deal. I mean, with the numbers that they're generating, the ratings that they have right now, they're probably number 1 on Warner in their time slot every fucking week or close to it. They got great demo numbers, not as good as they were, but they're still, where advertisers want them to be. If Tony leaves Warner Brothers, I'm sure he'll land on his feet somewhere. I don't know what type of money he's going to be making, but would Warner want both wrestling entities on their network? Is there a potential that Warner doesn't get the NBA and they go all in on pro wrestling? And additionally, if Warner grabs WWE and Tony doesn't want anything with Warner, is that going to affect their Max deal and their streaming deal to get the library on Max? Or can they be somewhere and still be on Max? Somewhere else and be on Max?
I think that AEW and Max that's going to be the home for AEW streaming and the pay-per-views. I think that's where that's headed. I know that they have had discussions about removing, having fans pay the $49.99, every, it seems like 2 months now. So I think that they're trying to keep the fans' wallets and purses in mind when they are making that decision. So I think the $9.99 on Max, whatever it costs for Max, is going to be where AEW's pay-per-views land. So with that relationship, because it's not on network television, I don't think that would affect the WWE deal. Unless WWE decides to waive that clause just so they can get on Turner, on Warner Media, on TBS or TNT, then yeah, I could see AEW on Discovery. But I have a funny feeling once Warner Brothers Discovery and WWE Raw deal is made official, which I believe. Listen, I'm gonna put my name on it. I'm gonna stand by it. I think WWE Raw ends up on Warner Brothers Discovery. I think once that happens, I think Tony will probably take Dynamite and Collision somewhere else,
Yeah,
unless he really wants to stay with Warner and goes on Discovery.
I think that's the case too. I believe you in that. If I'm Tony, I'm taking AEW somewhere else, and I'm going to go land on a different network because I would feel the same way he does. They're pushing him to the side for the bigger entity in WWE, and he's going to be second place. He's going to be pushed to the side.
Tell Tony to call YouTube TV. The NFL did.
I don't know.
I don't understand why people are all like, wrestling has to be on network television. Like, I get it. It's what we've all been programmed to, but realistically, like, streaming, everyone's cutting the cord and they're all on streaming. AEW at times, hear me out, would be better served on a streaming platform or a network that would allow them to kind of do some of the things that they can't do on these networks. I mean, AEW is more, it's ECW with better wrestlers and an extremely higher budget, in my opinion. So why not put them on a network? Or streaming network. Why not?
I can see that. I mean, they scaled out some of the language from the earlier years of AEW. Clearly, that was a Warner initiative. You know, they'd be allowed to do that. You know, my other question to you was, would Nick Khan and Triple H seek an exclusivity clause for Monday Night Raw to be the only wrestling entity on Warner Brothers Discovery?
Possibly. And I want to say this, possibly to your question. Yes, there's a knucklehead in the chat who said YouTube TV with a laughing face. Do you realize that YouTube TV,
don't get you started now, because I know you mentioned this a couple of weeks ago.
Years ago, I said that YouTube TV was going to buy a sports package, whether it was the NBA, they went out and bought NFL Sunday Ticket. YouTube TV.
And how much they spent for that?
Oh, billions. So, I mean, like, don't sit here and laugh about things you have no idea what you're talking about. Truthfully, you have no idea what you're talking about because YouTube TV is the official partner of the NFL Sunday Ticket, and that is worth billions. It's Google, you knuckleheads. So and to Nick Khan's contract clause, it's been a contract in WWE's media rights for decades. So could it be? Sure, but we also don't know the financials that go into Warner and AEW. Do they own a minority stake? I believe that they do.
I mean, Tony Khan has alluded to that. I mean, he's kind of put it out there that he's in complete control 100%. He's got 100% of the voting power and this and that.
But does he ever answer?
He didn't really deny it.
No, he never answers it. He just skates around it, which is smart.
Now, you know, one of the discussions in the community is if AEW gets booted off their own network, that they're dead. I know Drew and I talked about this last week and a couple of weeks ago. They're not dead. AEW is not dying. For the numbers that they pull in, Tony Khan will find them a nice, suitable home if this is not going to work out for them. Is it a big blow to pro wrestling and AEW? Absolutely. Does it suck? Absolutely. But the narrative in the community about people legitimately wanting AEW to die. Now, I don't give a shit for any other reason but this reason. And I don't really see Triple H doing this because I said this myself time and time again. Triple H, he will put on the best product possible. And he knows what the fans want, more so than what Vince did. Vince did what Vince wanted to do to appease Vince. Triple H is not going to do that. But if AEW is around, they've made WWE better. AEW has actively made WWE better. AEW has actively made WWE step up and produce better television, whether or not you want to agree with that. I don't give a shit. That is 100% factual information. If WWE was alone and AEW didn't exist, you would not have the type of television that you're getting right now with the sense of focus, storylines, long-term booking, and the type. We're seeing more pro wrestling on TV than we have when Vince was in charge. AEW has actively made WWE better. I don't know why people want that to go away and AEW to be abolished and die and Tony Khan to go away forever. Do you want to go back to that? I know I don't.
No.
I don't want to go back to that.
No, like I've said this a bunch of times on these shows. I'm super grateful for AEW, and I'm super grateful for Tony Khan trying to do something that nobody's ever done before, and he has really carved out something that nobody's really ever done before. WCW with Hogan, Hall, and Nash, maybe, but realistically, that was a great time in professional wrestling too. Like 97 through 01, 02 was great, and I I'm a fan of what's happening. I'm happy that there's more wrestling entities out there, more companies, and I give Tony Khan and AEW a lot of credit. And I wish them the best, and hopefully they continue to do the things that they're doing, because two billionaire wrestling companies are better than one.
Yes. You can you can sit there and you can fucking flame Tony Khan all you want on social media and throw all the negativity and all the fucking negative criticisms and hate at him all you want. Without Tony Khan, Punk is not back in wrestling. Without Tony Khan, Punk is not back on WWE television. Without Tony Khan, Cody is not the way he is now and back on WWE television. You're not looking at Jade Cargill in WWE. Well, maybe her, but I mean, still, she got a platform. She was seen on AEW television, which made her a little bit more desirable to WWE. And the same is going to go for Ricky Starks, Wardlow, MJF, and all these other people that WWE is going to go out there and pay big money for. Why are they paying big money for them? Because Tony Khan gave them the canvas to go out there and paint. So stop the hate. That's all I have to say. It's not me shilling Tony Khan. That's not me dick riding Tony Khan. That is the fact. So stop with the fucking bullshit. We cannot allow AEW or want AEW to die.
No, and again, it's not going anywhere. I mean, I've said this numerous times on the show. I've said it on so many different other episodes too. Like, AEW is going nowhere, and I don't want them to go anywhere. And, you know, when Punk signed with WWE, the first episode we did here, I thank Tony Khan for reigniting that passion for CM Punk, Phil Brooks. And again, AEW is not dead. And if WWE goes to, you know, signs with Warner Media, they're not dead yet either. It's a big blow. It does hurt AEW's, you know, television deals and bottom lines and stuff like that. But competition is good for all. So we'll have to wait and see where AEW lands.
Tony Khan did address the criticism. There is two types of criticism: constructive criticism, and there's absolute fucking full-on hatred, which I'm sure you guys know, the creators and the podcasters in the community that do nothing but fucking hate and generate views and clicks off the hate for AEW, because there is, believe it or not, an audience for that. Tony Khan said this: to be AEW is to be under attack, constant attack. You do a great show, and the next day somebody's saying something negative. You do 5 great shows in a row, somebody says something negative. You break the ticket record for the most tickets ever sold for a wrestling show in the history of the world, he said, and somebody has something bad to say about it. At this point, I don't worry about it. We just need to go out and do great shows week after week like we did, and we were number 1 on cable this week and on Wednesday. He loves being number 1 on cable. Whatever. We beat every single show on TV on Wednesday out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shows across hundreds of networks. And if we continue doing it, everybody here is going to be in a good position. You can have a great day in the business, do the number 1 show, and people try to tell you that you didn't do something great. Or you can break the world record for most tickets ever sold to any wrestling show ever and have this massive, huge success on pay-per-view and just hit a home run. The wrestling's great and everything's great, and people still try to tell you that there's a problem with it or something detrimental. I have news for you. When people drop counts of the show, when people posted the numbers of people that go through the turnstiles, I've never heard of somebody posting a turnstile count, which is like there's so many ways to get into a show, and there's so many people I talked to that bought tickets that did not have to go through the turnstiles. But take that aside for a second. The turnstile count that is so normal for North American pro sports, even if it was 73 out of 81, that would be over the average of a show rate for North American pro sports. So if you take the average, like the Big 4 pro sports game in America versus the tickets purchased, and then people who actually go through the gate, if people talk like that, you know, people think that was abnormal. To be AEW, no matter how good you do, there will be people coming for you, gunning for you, because that's what this is. There's a reason that every single person who stepped into my position until now has gone out of business. I'm the only one left. Everyone who stepped up put millions of dollars into this and done it week in after week after week after week. There's no offseason. You do it 52 weeks a year. It's a fight, and that's a credit to the fans. I know what it is to be a wrestling fan 52 weeks a year. It's hard, but it's also the most rewarding thing. That's why you can't get away from it for too long. That's why we always come back to it. We're addicted, and that's worth fighting for. Now, I said this on social media, Drew. There is constructive criticism, which you and I, point blank, give every week. Me and Jesse give every week. That type of criticism, I hope that Tony Khan understands that type of criticism from the criticism that is hateful and wants him to die and all these nasty things and AEW to die. I hope he genuinely understands there's a sheer difference between that. Now, the people that he's mentioning, I know for a fact he's mentioning Cornette and Disco Inferno and Conan and all these other guys who just clickbait and fucking do what they do to hate AEW for whatever reason. At the end of the day, does he truly get that fans care and want to see a better product, or is he lumping everything into the same bubble here?
No, I mean, I think he definitely gets and understands that, he being Tony Khan. I think the biggest thing here is that, again, when I'm watching this and I'm dissecting it and trying to read the human being behind the camera and his mannerisms and everything else like that, and his tone and what he's saying, it sounds to me like Tony again, knows that he is second place right now, and he almost seems like he's defeated. He sounds like he's going to fight the fight, whether Warner Discovery decides to renew him or not. If they go with the new, flavor of the month or flavor of the year, which would be WWE, he'll still continue to push out AEW, and wherever they land, they land. It just seems to me like Tony is, I don't want to use the word backpedaling, but I mean, he went very hard after WWE, mentioned them a lot on television. Now he's kind of backed off on that stance. And it seems as if Tony kind of sounds like somebody who understands that he's probably not going to be renewed.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that same way. He's not innocent in the attacks either. He's had his roster go out there and say things, and we laugh and we fucking mark out on it on social media. I remember with Title Tuesday, and NXT did that fucking NXT Mania show on Tuesday night where they were going head to head. I mean, he went on social media on 3 separate occasions, and he called Shawn Michaels and Triple H a bald asshole. He mentioned something about John Cena and The Undertaker, the first time in their illustrious Hall of Fame careers where they drew less than 1 million viewers in their career. It's like, you're opening yourself up for attacks like that because of shit that you said on social media. Only if he stepped away from social media and didn't post shit like that, he probably wouldn't be attacked, and he would feel a lot better about what he does. But
you can't play that card.
The cause of that, though.
Right, but you can't play that card too, JD. If I came out here and MF'd everybody and then people MF'd me back, I mean, how much of a bitch do I look like if I'm like, I'm under, and I'm not calling Tony a bitch, but what I'm saying is that, like, when you come out here and you ask for the heat, then you better be able to take it. And I asked for the heat on here, and if you people want to give it back, then so be it. I will volley with you until one of us burns.
I know where he is on that because I give the heat all the time. And sometimes the heat is a little bit too much for me, but I don't mind giving some heat back. But I totally get where he's coming from. It's tough to not engage on that in social media.
I get it, but what I'm saying is that, like, I think if Tony cared more about his weekly episodic television making sense and having, dynamic and profound storylines instead of Meltzer's ratings and being the booker of the year, I think AEW would be hotter than ever right now. But I just, again, watching that press conference was very telling to me. It seems like Tony, and I give him a lot of respect, he gets a lot of shit, and I feel for the guy. I do, but I think Tony needs to worry less about what every Tom, Dick, and Harry on the internet has to say and put up the best television product he can.
I agree. Listen, Tony Khan, I don't know if Tony's listening or if he's going to catch wind of this or someone in his circle is listening to this. I say this from the bottom of my soul. Fans like us don't give a shit about demos. We don't give a shit about ratings. We don't give a shit about attendance numbers. So for Tony to throw those numbers out at us at a scrum and really kind of lay his argument at the feet of those numbers. You can't do that. You can't get away from all the criticisms by putting on great pro wrestling matches every week. If the matches don't, I think Drew said it in this show, if the matches don't make fucking sense, I don't care to watch. You can't hide behind a fucking tournament. After the tournament, where are we going? After MJF and the Devil reveal, where are we going? You don't have any trust in the audience for long-term booking after everything that we're seeing right now play out on television. You need 2 things in general. Tony is never going to swallow his pride and never going to take a step away from the fucking chair. What Tony needs to do is hire a writing team and get the fucking episodic television show back to creating episodic television week to week to week where it makes sense. And additionally, he needs to split the rosters. We need a roster for Dynamite, and we need a roster for Collision. It worked in the tournament. It worked when Punk was there and Collision was separate from Dynamite. I don't know why we don't do that, because I don't know what is what anymore, and I'm tired of making this argument. A writing team and splitting the rosters, I swear on my grandfather's grave, would go so far in making this company better. And he doesn't listen to any of these criticisms. He just, let me throw out a great match. Let me throw out Vikingo out there against Command. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody gives a shit, bro. Honestly.
Right. And that's the biggest problem is, okay, I think I put it out on social media during Dynamite. I said that was a good match, but why is it happening? Why did Samoa Joe and Roderick Strong have a match?
I couldn't tell you.
No shit. Nobody can.
No,
that's the problem.
Adam Page and Roderick Strong, right?
Oh, sorry. No,
yeah.
Adam. Yeah, right. Why did those two have a match? Like, what is the point? Where is this going? Adam Page, they've said not the devil, this, and that. So, I mean, but okay, what does this have to do with the storyline? I mean, I hope Tony has a plan. But the hotshot booking, and then let's just put this guy against that guy. I have nothing to tune in for.
No, the biggest thing you mentioned this already.
Yeah.
No.
I want, and it was going to be part of the end for me when I asked you this, but I'm more excited for Copeland and Christian and MJF's reveal, hopefully who the devil is at World's End. I wish Copeland and Christian were either a cage or a ladder match, but I'll take a no DQ. But that's it for me with AEW. What else is there? Nothing.
I mean,
the Continental Classic. Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to sit here and make it a WWE versus AEW thing, but we're not going into the end of the year with WWE thinking, all right, well, after the new year, where are we going? We have talked about this specifically for weeks on where they are going, and we've mapped out storylines potentially until after SummerSlam on just last week's show. I can't even tell you what AEW would do going into fucking Revolution. Like, I can't tell you. I don't know. It wasn't like that before, and I am sad that it's like that now. They moved away from one of the reasons why they were an alternative. And I don't, Tony can sit there and his team can sit there and say, well, if someone is saying that we're not an alternative, they don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. You're not an alternative anymore, because what you were doing against Vince was the alternative. What you're doing against Triple H right now, how are you standing out from what Triple H is doing? Because what he's doing is better than what you're doing right now. And that's just the cold hard facts. That's not me shilling Paul over Tony. That's not me, leaving Tony for Triple H. No, it's just the way it is. They're hot, you're not. It can't be any more clearer.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget that, like, wrestling isn't just the best wrestler in the world going against another best wrestler.
That's great. Believe me, there is an audience for that. I'm not.
Yeah, tell me stories.
I'm 50%
tell me stories.
Want to see great wrestling, and I want 50% to be a fucking story. Why are these guys wrestling?
Yeah, I mean, I can watch any wrestling match that people are like, the two best wrestlers in the world, but give me a story that I can stick my teeth into. Give me some background, some drama, that's what it's all about. I mean, otherwise, what the hell is the point? What the hell is the point?
This is not hate. This is constructive criticism. I know someone in the chat mentioned JD. He's talking about the Discos and the Cornettes. I know he's talking about those people. I don't know why he listens to those people. They're not for him. Fuck those people.
What's funny,
what
though?
What value do they bring but to their own audience? We, Drew, me, Jesse, and everybody else that loves this fucking shit called AEW, we are giving criticism because we want to see a better product. We're not hating on them for the sake of, hey, man, I need views today.
You know what the thing is, though? Like, it's everybody, too. They see, out of, let's just say out of 100 comments, 99% of them, or 99 of them, are all positive. The only thing that the person fixates on is that one negative comment, which I'll never understand. 99 people lined up and said your shit was great. One person said you're a fucking loser. And it's like, man, I guess I'm a loser. Like, that's the only one you fixate on. That's the only one you focus on. For what?
I do it.
I know. And for me, it's like, I see these knuckleheads on, X, they tweet me, blah, 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 and I'm just like, whatever, because I retweet the ones that or repost the ones that are like, thanks for your show. I appreciate you taking time out of your Tuesdays. You and JD do a great job. Like, that's what it's about. You don't like it? Change the damn channel. You don't like AEW? Don't watch it. A lot of these guys are making a living off of shitting on AEW. But without AEW, what are you shitting on? Shut up. Shut up. Stop blasting a guy for spending all of his money, whether it's his inheritance or not. Who cares? It's his money. And if he's blowing it all to try and be competition, or if he's blowing it all to try and give you an alternative, be grateful. You don't like it? Whatever. Go watch something else. I make dinner. My kid doesn't eat it. Guess what he gets? Nothing. Because he's not eating what we cooked. You don't like what AEW is cooking? Go watch something else. But to sit here and shit on it without some sort of like direction or telling them what they should fix or kind of constructive criticism is pointless. And I'll never do that. I want stories from AEW. They have some of the best wrestlers in the world. Give me storylines and give me direction. And I'm good. But don't just sit here and shit on it for shitting on it. You don't like dinner? Go eat something else.
Yeah. I hope that he truly understands the criticism of the good-hearted people that love and support what he's doing. And I hope at the end of the day, he takes that criticism and works to be a better, booker creatively and to run a better show. That's all I could ask for. Don't listen to the bullshit that we all know is legit hate for the sake of hating, for whatever agenda they have. Those people aren't for you. And I know that he's talking about those people, but I mean, it was just.
But he's fixating on people who.
I know.
He's fixating on people who charge people X amount of dollars to meet them or sign an 8x10 or make an appearance. When Tony is taking all of his money that he was supposed to inherit, or maybe money that he has had saved, and throwing it at a wrestling company because it's his passion. It's something that he loves, and you shit on it. He's giving, and the people that are shitting on it, all they would ever do is take. They're not the same people. No. Sorry.